City Greens, and you're watching.
Y'all are now tuned in to
KTTV.
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 KTTV. Is that right?
Man, I love that. What it do, KTTV? This is KT, and I'm coming at you live with the first episode of Season 6 of the Daily K Podcast. And it is only right that I do it BIG with the man himself, Mr. Artist, Educator, Dr. Garfield Bright. How you doing today, brother?
What's good in the hood, man? What's happening with you?
Look, man, I want to say thank you for taking some time out of the busy schedule, man. I know you got the shows, you got the education, and just life in general, man. So thank you for taking a few minutes, brother.
Oh, my pleasure, man. My pleasure.
Look, before we jump into things, I love to do a wellness check. You know, it's been crazy out here this last year and a half. So, brother, before we get into anything, how have you been doing? And how have you been staying safe out here, man?
Oh, I just, stay doing my usual thing that I've always done. You know, I got a workout regimen when I wake up. I eat. I'm a vegan, and just try to have a habit of mind to keep a cool mind. And music is a big part of my day, so that's like therapy in terms of being in the eye of the storm, so to speak.
Yeah. And
I'm always, building on something mentally to work on as a project. I'm finishing up a audio book. I'm doing an album, and and I started on a new book called The Travelers Bureau. It's pretty funny. It's pretty deep, and just things of that nature to keep me busy, creative. It's freedom and creativity. So
yes, sir.
It's a peace of mind there, and I'm always building for the babies, trying to come up with different things to solve problems. In terms of community through education. So that's how you and I got together in the first place. Doing things like that. So that's a well-rounded buffet for me to interface with during COVID and otherwise. Keeps me grounded and motivated.
Come on, man. Look, brother. People just don't know, man, until you get to talking, man, how deep this brother is, man. Don't let that music fool you, man, with the brother, the Shai, all that, man. The brother is deep. And so, man, I really believe like that regiment, and from just talking to you, understanding that is what you go through, man. And so staying grounded with those pieces is what I think is what we had to do, right, to keep us going through this. I agree with you. I was fortunate that school, like my job, all this part of my life never stopped. Mm-hmm. And so then I couldn't stay stuck to the TV, or I couldn't stay worried about this. I got 800 people that I got to worry about every day, you know? And so, man, I feel you, man. I feel you. So, man, as we get into things, man, for the people that don't know, these youngsters, can you give them a little background on you? And man, just a background on you, man, from the group to today a little bit.
Okay, well, man, I'm a mutt upbringing wise. I was born in Nashville, Tennessee, Meharry Hospital. My parents moved around a lot. I went to my early school in Montgomery, Alabama. School's called St. John's, Cloverdale, Vaughn Road. And then when I got to 9th grade, I moved to Brockton, Massachusetts. Well, Quincy, Massachusetts first for a year. And I made my dad move from Quincy. I couldn't, Quincy wasn't for me. I ain't see myself reflected enough over there. And then I moved to Brockton. And Brockton High School, home of Marciano, Rocky Marciano, Marvin Hagler, rest in peace, both of them. And I came of age there, played for Brockton High basketball, was a student athlete type of guy. And, basketball was my thing. I used to pop and break dance for my hustle for money while I was in school and everything. Got best dressed in high school. Mm-hmm. I used to idolize Morris Day in the Time, so I used to dress like the Time. And the teacher just thought I had a fly blazer on and I must be some kind of corporate guy, but really I was just emulating my favorite group. But anyways,
but no, because back in the day you had a little fade. You had the fade.
Yeah, I had my high top fade. So then I went to Howard, University, the only school I applied to. And my roommate freshman year was one of the guys in the group, Darnell. And he and I became best friends from early on to this day, from 17 years old to 51 years old. And, Shai kind of happened, throughout the time at Howard. It came together like our senior year. And, once we got the record deal, it was like the world changed for us. We were some college kids, who were just going international. And, thank God we went to a HBCU where being Black meant something, where the music of the day was like Public Enemy and Rakim and Big Daddy Kane like, Boogie Down Productions, Slick Rick, Brand Nubians. We had a heavy dose of that kind of music, which was kind of conscious in the name of our party music. Partying, we was listening to kind of conscious music in the name of partying, slow down, Grand Poobah and all that. So everything kind of like fell into our consciousness. So hip hop, which was our youth culture and our way of life, was inundated with like conscious kind of messages that we kind of like took in. And as we became men, we kind of like displayed those kind of like value systems that hip hop was kind of like feeding us, along with what we thought we needed to do as well as just black men battling the system that was weighed against us and stuff like that. So, movies like Spike Lee was, out, Do the Right Thing. And,
Yes, sir.
all those types of things proliferated our mental space along with the songs. And we was smack dab in the middle of DC, which at the time was, like the murder capital. Crack was out at the time, but it was like a lot of young people standing up and speaking truth to power through hip hop and R&B. And it kind of like gave us the foundation and full ground and kind of like launch ourselves from a youth culture into a serious pop cultural kind of like space, which would become hip hop. Hip hop became pop culture on our watch. And so we got to graduate with it and get people like Puffy put at the top of the social ladder in terms of making taste and pop and culture, because he came from that base. And I was just one of those people in Shai, and we were one of those entities that kind of like a lot that created taste as well. If I Ever Fall in Love was a original piece written by some college guys. It was our own piece that we wrote that hit the world. So it was like, it was a little bit different than just singing somebody else's song. We kind of had an impact on that level. So that kind of gave us credibility. And the fact that we came out of Howard, kind of like bolstered that, well, yeah, them dudes did go to Howard. I'm not surprised they can write, that kind of like feeling underneath. And we just try to represent who we were, man. And thank God at that time, there was so many one of ones, Boys to Men, and Silk and Shai and Jodeci and Portrait and, everybody out at the time was just crazy.
Wow, you did. Wow, that was look.
Yeah, so SWVs and the J's and the H-Town. Yeah. So we just fell in and we just kept being ourselves through that whole piece, representing Howard, representing brothers, and representing the neo soul movement coming from the old school Temptations and the Spinners and all that, being a new version of that. So it was a lot, coming into the game. And
man, but y'all did it, and like you say, thinking about that social piece and just the timing of the group, coming from that Howard. You're right, you in the black epicenter. And so when you drop something new and it pushed, but man, I think I don't know if that Empire ever, man. That thing was so hard, it could have probably popped from anywhere, man.
In our naivety, we thought it could. We thought it was supposed to, because we thought it was a dope song. We thought we should get a record deal. But we know it's way more to it than just having a dope song. It worked. It worked.
Yeah. And that's what led me to the great segue to the next question. So on Sundays, I do like a after party for my radio show called the Underground Kings podcast. And so I was working with Derek McKinney. He was doing Loud Fest, and I interviewed him. He said the biggest thing that he's struggling with was artists just wanted to be artists. They didn't want to be the businessman. And so when it's time to handle business with the festival, it was kind of lackluster. Talking to you, brother, writing the songs, like you said, y'all wrote the songs, you handle your paperwork, you still see that fruit today. Man, can you just talk about over the years, have you been seeing a decline or uptick in people doing good business? And how do you help youngsters to avoid doing bad business as far as their contracts?
Well, a lot of the contractual stuff is eliminated just off on the face of it because of the instantiation of something called social media. Where you don't have to have a label be the middleman anymore. You can resonate with some kind of subgenre of a crowd that just messes with you like that. And I don't care if it's the 10,000 people that are your followers. Those 10,000 people paid $2-3 for a thing that you put out. That's 30 grand in your pocket, despite any kind of like large fame. You can eat off of that. So a lot of people would rather be economically stable than famous per se, and then grow their followers, and get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger venues. So a lot of the people don't fall prey to the contracts in this day and time. There's really no excuse for it, if you're smart. And a lot of the times when labels want to sign you, it's because you've already established such a following, especially in the day of, the digital day. you've already established in their minds when they're trolling and checking you out. They see that so many people already follow you that it would behoove them to get on you as the next trend. So you're bringing way more to the table than just like the power dynamic is kind of shifted in that sense. And like I'll tell you somebody that's like that. What's my man that did the joint? He's from overseas, so he's from Atlanta, but he's from overseas. Rapper. And
how long ago it came out?
Oh, he's a fixture. Like he did the joint with J. Cole that was burning a little while ago.
Yeah.
What's my name?
21?
21 Savage. 21 Savage is like a person who's so bananas in terms of his crowd rapport and his followers that labels literally was bidding for him. Yeah. He didn't have to sign a deal with a label. He already had that on lock, but they was gonna make it so worth his while because he was already buzzing and he already had that direct connection. All the label had to do was just basically sign him and they can get in on the action as opposed to making him be something. Yeah. And so if you're an artist out there, the leverage is in you controlling your destiny and choosing, whether or not you want to even entertain a label, unless they're making it so worth your while like they did Savage, because he could have been so self-contained because he already was. But he signed because they was coming with some lovely stuff and he got to own his masters. He got to keep his masters. He got rights to his masters. They don't own him. They kind of like lease him, in some weird kind of way. So that would be the ideal way. And a lot of the youngest this day have a model like that in their mind. They seen that as possible. Whereas when we were coming up, we didn't have too many cases of that being the case for artists. Artists on the usual were getting like shafted by these labels, So it wasn't really until hip hop really grew its legs that people like Jay-Z and a lot of people start really, really flipping what it meant to be on a label and to be owning their own labels and then reclaiming their own masters and setting a precedent for younger artists coming out to have a standard no less than, look, I'm gonna own my masters. So in a lot of ways, a lot of youngins, they kind of thinking about, are they smarter than us business-wise? Like a lot of them are smarter. Like you might have some just byproducts of just being adolescent, kind of lazy-minded because they ain't grown men yet. But on the most part, a serious artist in today's age, even young ones, are more just generally savvy about the business side of things than like our age group when we were coming through the ranks. They just got more of a, and it's because of social media. They already so connected. They know what they leverage is.
I agree. I remember hearing songs.
But they definitely they can brand themselves way better than artists from our day. Like they got that on lock on their own. And now all it is left, if the product is dope and that branding is what it is, they dope. And then they got platforms to choose from. Like they can be on Pandora, they can be on Spotify. Like they got situations that they can put themselves in and monitor and just directly cut out any middleman like a label. They don't need that for face recognition no more. So,
and that's the way they doing it. The show will pick you up. Yeah. And then they making it so popular in so many songs. They're saying, I own all my masters or something like that. Yeah. So
that's the standard now. That's becoming a standard, which is dope. Like that's definitely a progression for that to be the habit of mind of an artist to just automatically feel like I'm supposed to own my masters. You know what I mean? Like that's something that we didn't see that as a tangible gonna go. We wished it was the case. We was aware of the importance of owning your masters, but the machine was so stacked against us at the time that it would be almost impossible with a new artist deal to be talking about let me own my masters. It was just a different day.
Yeah. And so man, I guess in wrapping it up on that music side, what's next for the group? When is the albums dropping? How's everything going? When is the performance? When is the H-Town show?
We never stop performing. We always perform. We got shows always booked up. The 90s thing is something that people came of age on, and the people who kind of have more disposable income or in the age group of when they were like 17 when we first came out, 18 and stuff like that. So now they grown, got jobs, and they still love the 90s. They'll go pay for a concert because that nostalgia, they would like that as their escape mechanism.
That's what I'm saying.
They'll come check out a Shai, SWV, Genuine, 112, John B, show, with and others, Next and Drew Hill, all of H-Town, all the ones. And so that's who we perform with. That's who we perform with all the time. We got shows coming up, the Carolinas, Chicago's, Sacramento's, like shows are coming up. Just be, you just follow us on Instagram. You'll see when we get ready to do a show. You come check it out.
That is, because I'm telling you, the show. Everybody waiting on the H-Town. Look, Keisha say she ready.
And in terms of doing an album, we Darnell and myself are definitely doing some music for a Shai project.
Yeah.
And then personally, I'm doing a solo effort. It's going to be called Off Track because it's the whole album is a cappella, but it's the kind of way it's a cappella. Like the track, I have tracks on there that are like I did with my mouth. I did the percussion, the bass lines, the little sounds maybe in there, different string sounds as the instruments, and then I wrote a song and then sung the song on top of that track, even though the whole thing is a cappella. So I got a whole album full of those types of things, and then interludes in between that are just harmonies connecting songs together. So it's like a journey and a vibe. So that's my little piece, and it's called Off Track because it's no track. It's just a cappella.
Yeah, come on, bro, Off Track.
Yeah, so
I love it, family. What we'll do, man, I want to get into sponsor, and then when I get back, man, I want to get into this education side of things, man. Talk about just your background, but also what we got going on, man. So let me get that going. Y'all hold tight, and there's a word from Mr. Freckles. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Look, man, my friend, he owns a flavor pickle company by the name of Mr. Freckles. Say, man, that dude is in over 100 stores.
Wow, that's dope.
You hear me, man? And we talking about not going through a regular place. Dude said, I'm gonna set this up idea. I'm gonna be the packer. I'm gonna give me a packer, and I'm gonna run it. And I drive around out the trunk, and I hit my stores, man. We're talking about ownership, bro.
That's how you do it, man.
Shout out,
that's how
man.
You run it. If you can do that, that's the best way, period.
Yeah, man. So now jumping back into things, man. I know we've been talking about the music, but outside of the music, we got Shai Garfield and we got Dr. Garfield Bright, right? And so I know from when I talk, you said you're focusing on initiatives and policy.
Pretty much, yep.
Okay. So as you went through performing, you're teaching and building this education life, where did the passion from the education come from? And brother, how did you do both at the same time?
Well, I never believe, I don't believe in the binary kind of like life either or and all that kind of stuff when it comes to goals.
Come on now.
I think we've been so short with that like binary style of thinking, like first past the post, like Democrat or Republican, situations where the outcomes can only be win, lose. Like it could be win-win situations if you really put that as a standard to chase after. Like
yeah, man,
you don't have to win, lose, like those types of things. So I never bought into all that kind of like either or. Like I'm like, if there's both sides of me, I'm gonna do both. But education, I grew up on the campus at Alabama State University. Like my first through third grade school was on the campus. I was a little kid on the sidelines doing the football and the basketball games, sitting on the bench with the players. Like I was that little mascot type kid at ASU. Everybody would be like, everybody knew me so I was always around higher learning, and it was never foreign to me. So as I matriculated through school, I always saw myself going to college in a black college because that's what I grew up like. That was just, I thought every black person did that. That's the way my mind was shaped as a first through third grader.
And seeing black people
on the campus. When I left school, my mom and dad worked for the university, so I would wait for them to get off work, and I'd just be over there with the track runners, with the football team, with the band. Like I went to Alabama State as far as I was concerned.
Yeah.
So it was like, so then when I end up, going to Howard and stuff like that, it was not a shock for me that's where I would end up in terms of education. And as that person, I always kind of felt an obligation to be steeped in like black culture, black history, and share it. I knew a lot early on because my dad bought me these comic books called Golden Legacy. And that was my reading alongside Superman, Batman, and all the Super Friends. I had a comic book full of black, real people who I thought were superheroes, like Matthew Henson to climb Mount Everest, the Pushkin Brothers, Toussaint Louverture, Frederick Douglass Part 1 and 2, Mary McLeod Bethune, all the different, inventors, Robert Smalls. Like I read about them and I thought those was comic book, that was a comic book. So anyways, when I get to school and I start learning that this is history, I already knew a lot of it because it was all on comic books. So I was always in a position to share more with people, like let them know what's up because I knew. And I became a natural teacher. So all through my life, I was always like, people that know me will tell you like, yeah, Garfield, he always been that dude, that type of dude. And so when I got to a certain point in my matriculation, I knew I was going to teach. I happened to be a guy, but I was still like very much so a teacher. A lot of times, actually, we would go to cities instead of singing for people in our off time before our actual concert. We'll hit a high school and create little circles where we had just talk to different groups, if like split into 4 groups from Shai, 4 people, 4 groups, and just create dialogue and have them crossfiring back and forth. And then I'll step out, and next thing you know, they got a whole dialogue, and I'll remind them that that's them that started this. They could always do this. And the networking part of who they are when they grow up, these are gonna y'all are each other's best resources. Y'all gonna be the doctors, the lawyers, y'all need to make sure y'all stay in touch with it. I would just do stuff like that. It was just in me. And so when I got to a real point where I graduated and everything, I headed towards the teaching trajectory, and it carried me through a master's program and then ultimately a PhD program. While I was on the Tom Joyner cruise, because Shai, we had to perform, but I was doing chapter 4 of my master's thesis in the cabin in between time. So I was doing literally both at the same time, like literally both in. And that's just, I'm a scholar and a writer, an entertainer, a songwriter, singer. I'm all of those things, so I do all of those things.
Yes, sir. Come on, man. Look, brother, I told him, man. The brother is deep, man. If y'all don't know, man. And so now I know you spent I know you spent a lot of time at the high school level in your career, and so. Man, you share with me a lot of it, and for people that's listening, for my high school game changers, man, talk to us about some of the things that you instituted in that high school, man. Just a few of those programs.
Well, shoot, man, a lot of my programs, was in partnership with Georgia State. I got them to partner with me, and when I was getting my PhD and my master's degree, I worked in a place called the Crim Center at Georgia State. Alonzo Crimson, who was the first Black principal in Atlanta, his namesake. Dr. Asa Hilliard used to kind of run that. So Lisa Delpit used to be there too. These are all educational icons. But the early college program from George Washington Carver and Booker T. Washington runs through them. And so while I was there, I developed a couple of programs to serve some of the Black youth who were in the early college program, who were still in high school while they went to college 3 times a week. It was just, for young men, I developed a program, called I See Me, which stands for I Create My Experience. Critical thinking type of piece. It had a digital literacy component where they were taught to film and do music to create a score to what would be a service learning project where they went out to the neighborhood and polled and literally asked people and developed questions to poll people and ask them, if you had your druthers out of these hazards and resources, what would be things that you would add to the hazards resource list that we've compiled, and what would be some things that you would want to see changed immediately? And they would go actually about trying to change some of those things and then trying to present them to the city council. And but they would make a documentary of the making of all those moments and come together in agreement, and all kind of stuff had to happen where they would have to negotiate certain things and problem solve. But they were able to make a score to the film. They were actually having real people in real time in the community. And now they're the brokers of their thought. Like, they're the face of the neighborhood, and on behalf of the neighborhood, it's their Black young male face who's usually demonized as being a part of the problem, being really part of a solution, trying to change things and asking the elders what they think and what they think would be the best outcome, and then trying to go about doing it. So one immediate problem had to get solved as a hazard. Usually it's like a trash thing, because you can pick up trash. And the long-term thing was stuff like environmental racism. Like, if it was too many electrical things in the neighborhood, they would have to appeal to the city council. But it was all premised on the fact that life is a text. Anything that could be decoded or encoded can be read as a text, which pretty much includes everything. And so what can you do with a text? You can edit that thing and make a better version of it. So while you're a part of the neighborhood, you literally are a living part of that living text. You can change it in real time and edit it and then look at it and see what other mistakes might be there that you can change. So they saw that, and that allowed them to take ownership of certain things in the hoods instead of waiting for some grown up or something like that. Yeah. And then they went about trying to change it and thus change the narrative about who they were as young Black men. And so I did that program, and I helped run a program called Beyond the Bricks, which was similar. And then I created another program called Raw Inc., Rap Academy Incorporated. And it was like a hip hop boot camp, but it was like lessons in it. We would have dialogue on things like capitalism and gender relations and, all types of, spirituality, like issues. And then they would have to rhyme about it in different ways they would have to rhyme about what envy tastes like, smells like, things that were just not normal stuff that they would have to stretch their brain and try to imagine. But then they would build and come up with solutions through the dialogue too. To report in every day, they would have to come up with a 16 on where they were the last couple of days since we met and how their social state is, their mind state. We meet with a 16 on that. So it was a lot of bonding, a lot of stuff, but it was vocabulary words that they would have to use 20 vocabulary words, because every day in the discussion would be 2 vocabulary. They would have to use at the end of 10 lessons 20 vocabulary words in the rhyme, 16, and that could be used as a teacher's aid for those kind of SAT vocabulary words online for YouTube. We never got that set up, but that's what the last thing we were doing was getting it set up to where those rhymes that they did with the vocabulary words, they were full of SAT words that they could be put into a form with teachers if they wanted a different way to teach those words instead of a boring study for your quiz kids type of way. They can show these brothers rhyming these rhymes with these dope words in them that their kids can learn from based on, so it was a lot of stuff to it, and
was that part of the things? I know you said you talked to some people in HISD since you've been here in the city.
HISD?
Yeah, or have you worked with some schools here?
In I talked with a brother from Texas A&M.
Okay, Texas A&M, yes sir.
Yeah. I talked to you at Hicks, about the Artisan Scholar Initiative. But I also talked to a brother at Texas A&M about building a bridge from the Black Studies departments and his kind of like departments that are steeped in a historical kind of thing, cultural, historical kind of departments with Black high schools, and create like a bridge, a 2-way bridge where there could be mentorships created and create a pipeline from those kids, since they're getting mentored by people that look like them in the university, create a bridge for them to be comfortable with going straight to whatever those departments are, creating situations where those universities can put programming in the high schools and come to the high schools to do things with the student ambassadors there. And then the parents that are attached to the students a lot of times are, intimidated by the college flow of things. They don't know but if they come to the high school on a terrain where the parents are normally used to, that would give the parents even more like comfortability with the school. And then they will go above and beyond the extra mile to kind of like have rapport with people there and stuff like that. Things that a lot of parents are usually afraid to do because they think, especially ones who never went to college, they think that that's out of my league. But if they can get familiar, you can create community through that kind of stuff. And I was just trying to create a 2-way kind of presence, like interdependent kind of like vibe where the two can kind of like, symbiotically like feed off of each other in positive ways and create positive outcomes for both. Win-win. That's my mantra. Like we can really foster and create win-win situations and stuff like that. So my program is usually based on that kind of.
I'm working with before the COVID came. I was also talking to some people in my district about a program like that, but it would have been through starting with A-Leaf and University of Houston downtown, right? And so then, but it would have been mentoring young males, minority males, and kind of following them all the way from their last few years of high school all the way through college. And so that's what was so awesome for me.
That's awesome. That's like a lot of the battle right there.
Yeah, and it was because they wanted them to get more. It was the push to get more African American males into education, and so that's what we was teaming up for. So that's why they followed them all the way through. So just trying to do something, man. So everything is needed. But as you said earlier, you alluded to, you did talk to me about the Artisan Scholars Program.
No doubt.
Brother, first off, I want to say shout out to Peter for plugging us up.
Pete.
Yeah, then I want to say shout out to Mr. Ray and Mr. Finch for all of the work that we've been putting in, man, whether it was at the schoolhouse or at my house on the Zoom.
We've been getting it
in, man. So, man, talk to us about that program. And I know we modifying it for elementary, man, but just talk to me about the way you had it set up and you wanted to see it for the high school kids.
Yeah, just, Artisan Scholars is premised on the fact that, somewhere along the way, like I said, it could be supposed to have win-wins, but it's always been some kind of weird win-loss umbrella hovering over us where they pit people like Booker T. Washington versus W.B. Du Bois instead of extracting like how Bruce Lee had Jeet Kune Do, which was taking the best of both. Instead of taking the best of both of those cats, because both of those dudes were brilliant and like blending that, creating a synthesis, a win-win. And so when I was looking at it like that, Du Bois was more about the college track, which would be like the STEM kind of like education, so they can serve in a position like a talented 10th kind of position, and be a credit to the race in that way. But then there was also the people who rolled up their sleeves and got their hands dirty with skilled trades, with manual labor type of things that were no less mentally, aptitude based. You can't be no dummy and be no electrician or no carpenter, none of that. Plumber, you got to understand angles, math, technology, the same stuff, but just in a more applied kind of way, in a real life kind of way. And so I'm advocating that for our babies to have the best chance at life after they matriculate, after high school, instead of having a narrow kind of trajectory that can only be college bound, that can only be corporate America, when we know a lot of the battle is beyond your GPA and your social capital comes into play. Who can get you hooked up and stuff like that. A lot of that kind of stuff. The white families have that because Uncle Jake or whoever owns this or is head of the company over here, we don't have those kinds of resources. So even though we're mathematically gifted and a lot of things like that, our employability is not just based on our skill set. Yes, but something like a entrepreneurial kind of thing that was always building right beside it from 4th grade. Like you were also enamored about electrician work at the same time as you was a math whiz that was going through your college trajectory. You were also loving having a mentor who's an electrician teaching you real skills, looking at your math and then looking at these electrician things and seeing how those two correlate and having a healthy respect, an even-handed respect for not only electricianship, but people like blue collar workers who are electricians and carpenters, where you're not looking down on them as you get your education, you're looking down on those kind of people that's some kind of subpar. No, you're seeing those things as community building, life skill building, vital and viable employment kind of pieces that coexist. And so if you see those like that, you have a healthier respect for the community. And if you aspire to have both of those as part of your trajectory, you're going to graduate from high school and have the ability or the skill set to be part of the union through your skilled trades, which will serve you in good stead as an entrepreneur. And you can also be in college on your corporate track, your corporate America track, and be equally both of those things and be that much more employable and that much more understanding of what it would take to kind of employ other people and run your own business and serve the community that way. But you'll be anchored as a human to community stuff through those skilled trades, because that's where those trades take place. And you'll just be a different kind of a person coming out more mentally ambidextrous with that kind of like, in that kind of milieu coming through.
Yeah, man. And so that's why I wanted to jump on it so fast, brother. As far as when we talk, because I understand the power that holds for students who are impressionable, man, elementary. Like I said, even our district understands because they spent a lot of money building up this career center, and so our whole school for the kids that are career center minded kids, like this is what you're leading up to. This is what's going to help you get that associates. This will help you kind of go on your way as you graduate. But I feel like by the time kids decide they want to go there, it's already too late. And so that's why I'm so thankful that we connected so that we can kind of put this program into place. So far, man, we've been building up our lessons. We got our people. Shout out to Brandon Stoker for coming on. So, man, I'm looking forward to what's going to happen, man, as we build this thing out, man.
Yeah, me too, man. I know it's going to be impactful, man, because it's definitely a good approach. And I think we need to start contouring education to meet the needs of the people as opposed to this one-size-fits-all thing where the outcomes are not necessarily going to benefit specific groups. So if you already know that you're going to be on the short end of the stick in certain ways, you should put the answer to that in the educational pool, in the curricula, to develop those kinds of skills that are missing so that when they do graduate, they can be the answer or the solution set to whatever used to be a deficit. And that's just such a simple read for me. And now it's just about putting the will to it to make it be.
Yeah, make it be, man. And I promise we won't stop, man. So now, Keisha been on. She been coming and she's hosting or having, and I'm hosting the men's conference on the 24th. You're a speaker at the conference. So can you give us some insight to what you're going to be speaking on that day? Because you already dropped a lot on us. So if ain't nobody ready to tune in by now, you're going to drop the rest of the hammer on them, brother.
Well, the title I came up with is called, quote, A Good Education. And then after the colon, it says, what is that? And then it also asks another question. And are we getting it? And getting it is kind of like a two-pronged thing. Like, are we getting, of course, the good education, whatever that is, but are we getting it? Like, a good education is in our hands. This is the bigger picture. Whatever it is that we need to supplement in terms of whatever our value system says is a good education, we are empowering ourselves to even put ourselves in that position to get that, as opposed to waiting for somebody to give that to us. You know what I mean? And so I'm gonna speak to maybe like, having people, I'm gonna really take people's faces and do like this and really make them look at what the public imagination in terms of what education has meant and what actually has constituted what we have always thought was a good education. Because nobody really sits there and talks about those terms. So what is a good education? Like, what if somebody was to ask you, you wouldn't really be able to point to a thing. It's kind of nebulous. It's like asking somebody what is black. Like it's really hard to really, or what is knowledge. Or what is truth.
What is that?
You can't really put your finger on it. You might be able to recognize it, but can you articulate what that is? And because it's like that, what is really letting you know is that this is some kind of like fostered, commonsensical concept that is instantiated itself as like some kind of truth. A good education is just one, where somebody maybe made good grades as they went through the process, and maybe they learned something. But you're not taking consideration things like character development, community consciousness. Does that education not only put you out there with a certain kind of skill set that makes you employable in the marketplace, but does it give you a critical conscience to kind of have a lens to kind of view the world in a more pragmatic way for your own safety and to honor whatever your visions are? So you have a more discerning eye. Does that education give you that? Does it give you more respect for your fellow man as a rule based on what is implanted in your human self as a student? The human that's a student, is it fostering that? Is it putting into your brain the importance of connectivity with your fellow man and stuff like that? Like all of those things are part of the educative experiences. And then really, is it educative? Is it something beyond habit training? Is it something where you learning? Is it bringing out of you what educare, Latin, education is based on, says to bring out? Is thing that you just went through, did it bring something out of you? Did it bring some skill, some affinity, something about your imagination that sparked a goal where you resonated with? Did it do that? Or did it just cram things in you the whole way? And now you're made of all these stick-ons of posted stickies, metaphorically speaking, of stuff that people put on you that they were their expectation of what education was. So what is a good education? And so I want to define it a little bit in terms of what I think our focus kind of could be as a people. And then if that is, to the extent that that's missing, what do we do in terms of going about fixing that? And part of my solution is the artisan scholar approach, where we teach our babies skilled trades as well as STEM content, to have them to be mentally ambidextrous and also entrepreneurial minded while they're on a college track type of trajectory where they can do both, and or have the aptitude to do both if they so choose. But they have choices that they can be marketable enough to be able to eat, post high school or post grad school or whatever it is. And so,
man, this season I dedicated just this Thursdays to nothing but education, man. So, brother, if I don't think I set the tone for the season by having you on here tonight to talk about this life you're trying to pour into these young men, oh man, I feel real good, brother. If this is any inclination how this season about to go, it's finna get real. We're about to have some life-changing stuff.
That's right.
Damn. So now I know I asked you about the group and what's next for them, man. But as Dr. Bright, as the scholar, man, what's next for you, man? I know you got some books coming. What's going on?
Well, yeah, one of the things that I do just as an outlet, because, when you're in grad school, master's degree, doctoral degree, you accumulate a lot of different types of knowledge and, tidbits of information kind of being on the inside of the academy that you often say to us, well, at least I say to myself so many times, I wish like the average lay person could know this right here. Like, why is this in these fancy books where only people that are searching this way can get it? Like this kind of stuff. Everybody, so stuff like the neoliberal agenda and, where gentrification comes from and those kind of things that people experience on the daily that are constantly looking for answers, or some people who are just getting sucker punched by it because they just have no idea that this phenomenon is planned, stuff like that. I have a thing called Curiosity Collage on my IG page. And a lot of those curiosities, I spit out, I've set up a little 10-minute segment where I kind of like speak to some of these issues, and they run the gamut of things. So as Dr. Bright, I do that just out of myself, little things that I've come across. But I'm working on some things that there's a few like I feel like certain kind of texts that should be written, around critical thinking, consider this type of things more so than like some kind of source of authority, like this is what it is. But things that I've noticed, I'm gonna be able to say, yo, consider this, and they're gonna be like, like snapshots of things in history that we take as just word is bond and we keep going, like the Brown versus Board of Education decision. It's so pumped up, and people, think of the buzzword integration is so powerful that people felt like that was our divine right to have it integrated. But they don't look at the things that happen as a result of certain integration pieces, especially that one, that was more destructive and detrimental to our neighborhood than helpful. The proximity to whiteness, bringing us closer to the resources, that kind of mindset. Got all of our Black teachers kind of like fired and taken out of the school system, never to be re-employed again. The people who actually cared about the Black babies, they were just a little under-resourced. But those Black teachers from those Black schools that were problematized and that were like torn down because now these kids are going to be bused to integrate with, those teachers never got to work again. Those people that you would see in grocery stores, that was, the babies would see all over the neighborhood, but then they would be in their classroom, and then they Miss Wilson knew my mom, my auntie, like that kind of dynamic disappeared. That ethic of caring from your teacher, but these kids are field dependent. They have to trust this figure before they can learn from this figure. That kind of stuff went out the window and got replaced, by Miss, Calloway, who doesn't know anybody's parents. She's a qualified.
I want to know.
She got a master's or a doctorate in the content, but doesn't have the really connective tissue to kind of like really engage Black students on a personal level to gain their trust, and then be able to kind of like interface with them on a, academic, like those dynamics people don't think about or talk about. But I'm gonna write some stuff really, really, really talking about what it is. And it came out of my master's program, where I came across one of my results was because I looked at what the heck is African-centered education. And I did a master's thesis on it. So I did interviews and observations. And what I really, really found, more than any kind of affective thing that was on the wall in the classrooms with Black pictures, beyond any of that stuff, but including that stuff, was that one, the teacher, whether it was a male or a female, had like, I hate to say this for lack of a better word, but had some kind of like mama-ness to him, where it was like a nurturing kind of a vibe. Even if it was masculinized by a man doing it, it was still, I care about you in ways that is deeper than this content kind of vibe there. And it created this, their consciousness was based on around, they put things in, it was a class womb was what they were inside as opposed to a classroom. And when I say a class womb, think about the mother's womb contains everything that baby needs to live, to be nourished, to eat, for their mood. The water creates the connection to the mom's mood, and all those emotions are on the water. They can feel, they can be so in tune. Where in the classroom, all those, the ethic of caring, the love is there. The things on the wall are there. And everything that's in there that's reflecting that baby going through that process is going to be in that baby when they come out of the womb. They're going to be made out of all that stuff. And if everything was stable in there, where everything that they needed was in there to create a positive self-image and all those, they're going to represent that womb outside the womb. And the extent to which the womb is on point, that baby is going to be on point as a representative, no matter what kind of grades they would get. Just as a human, if they were getting met with a kind of reinforcement in different areas, the grade is just an extension, or the performance is really just an extension, because the real belief is that all the students are brilliant. Deep down, the educare part to bring out might not have happened to some of them, because of the structure that they're in might not be amenable in ways that the womb was when they were actual babies. So that connection, I need to write about that a little more and speak to it, and really, really look at that as a model for, like master's programs with teacher and leadership things that to have a matrix or a metric that what makes a good teacher or not. Those kinds of things can start to be broached, because we don't have a real manual on what makes teacher a good teacher. We don't have any checkpoints. Nobody's done that work. But I think it's based on little things like mama-ness and making your room or making that space more like a womb, in centering the student in it and making sure that that student is met on more levels than just content and STEM trajectory stuff. You know?
Yeah, man, we gotta get plugged up with Dr. Katina too. Dr. Thomas is at PV in the teacher education area, teacher department. So we did I want to say one podcast that was just talking about how they prepare teachers and how they have to stay on top of things. So I think all insight, because she been around the world just talking about the same things for us teacher prep and that classroom and nurturing young Black boys and reading and things like that.
A lot of stuff isn't quantitative. A lot of stuff is really qualitative, like the character and the nuances that inform certain pedagogy is going to be based on the vessel itself more so than some prescriptive skill set. And so you can't quantify those kind of like those nuances, like, you know, but you got to have some kind of, you got to create words for these nuances so you can snatch them out of the ether and give them something that has a handle where you can really discuss these elements in a way that are more tangible so you can proactively look for them and then identify them. And that work has to be done. We got to snatch these characteristics out of the nebulous stage and make them more concrete so we can start looking at people in terms of those things when we're trying to put people in front of our babies and calling them teachers.
Come on, man. Here we go. Look, man, give me, or the audience, man, everybody, as we get ready to land this plane, brother, because you've dropped so much, man. How do we find you? How do we get in contact with you? How do we check out the 10 minutes? Look, man, and also when you write to consider this, please let me know, man, because you made me rethink Brown versus Board just tonight.
Oh yeah, Brown versus Board is the problem, man.
Yeah, man.
It's convergence at its highest.
Yeah.
And they, you know, and they try to knock down critical race theory, but Brown versus Board, if you look at it in terms of interest convergence, which is one of the 5 tenets of critical race theory, you can't argue with that fact that that's interest convergence based on what the definition of interest convergence is. Derek Bell. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook at the Garfield Bright Experience. And then you can also find me at the Shai page because I'm still in the group. And our page on Facebook and IG is Shiroglyphics, and it's SHAI, which is Shai, and then Roglyphics, ROGLYPHICS, like hieroglyphics, Shiroglyphics. And that's Facebook and Instagram. And that's what it's for me pretty much. You can find all my stuff, that curiosity collage thing that he was talking about, on my IG page and my Facebook page.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
Man, I appreciate you again, man, for taking some time out. Just dropping so much knowledge, man. And man, just the care and the passion you got for our young men to just make us better, man, for the race in itself, bro. And just the way that you talk about it. Man, we need more. And the only way we get it is by being vocal.
No doubt.
And then by creating it as they come up, right? Like I'm trying to do at this elementary level, man. Because if I can catch them early here, then I think we get to change the trajectory of a lot of young men. But it got to be with programs, brother, like yours.
And you know what
you have.
The kids got to be able to have a part of that process of shaping what school is. They got to be asked the question, yo, if you had it your way, what would school look like, sound like, feel like? Design a school for me. What kind of teachers would you have? What kind of subjects would you have? What kind of world would this school be plugging people into? You know, like all those they have them really think through that at a young age, and then they'll have a more of an understanding of what school means outside of just a warehouse or a place that they go. It becomes, they'll expect and demand more from it as their consciousness grows. If they get the question posed to them, so they'll have an official, you know, like they're an official person that can answer this question, even though they're young. They never thought that they could be the person to go to, but their answers count, because if you center in them and you got a good understanding of how they imagine what they're in, then you can understand the dynamic, and then based on your wisdom and their imagination, you can meet that somewhere in the middle and create just a more amenable place to educative experiences and stuff like that. So they got to be a big part of it.
Man, come on, brother. Well, I'm ready to get to work, man. I'm about to go to school Monday. All right, bro. Look, man, before we get out of here, I had a contest going on, and so I told people I was going to have 5 lucky winners, brother. So for tonight, I gave away a resort, 7-day stay for up to 4 people. I gave away a 7-inch tablet as well as, of course, you know I had to throw the merch in. So you're going to get 2 KTTV shirts because we got to support the merch. So, man. Hey, I got you.
I got to get one of those.
Hey, man, look, I had that in the mail. Once I get cold at my house again.
No doubt.
All right, look. So, number 1, at Mindfulness Chick. Number 2, Michelle Wasserman. Number 3, at J Fan. Number 4, at Danny Made Fearfully. And number 5, last one, at Michelle Nelson, 779-857, man. So congratulations to all those people. I'll reach out to you all. Hey, wait a minute. See, look, man, Lakeisha couldn't do it before. See how she had to do something before she got out of here, man. She's still waiting on her show. Look, man. I can't win right here. But, man, once again, man, I want to say thank you for taking out some time, for dropping some knowledge on you, brother. And I look forward to changing the world with you, brother.
No doubt. It's mutual, man. Likewise, ditto and all that good stuff.
Hey, there it is.
Everybody out there, you know, the only message, you know, accept your own, be yourself, and be you in all spaces. In all spaces.
That's it, brother. All right. Thank y'all. This is KT for KTTV signing out.
This is Darnell with Broadcast Houston.
This is Dr. Tamara Beckford. Hey, this is Candace.
This is London Underwood.
This is Kirsten Bass with Inner City Greens, and you're watching
Y'all are now tuned in to
KTTV. KTTV.